Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for stopping by again. I want to talk today about mistakes, or at least potential mistakes, that you might make before you even set foot in Panama. Now, one classification of those are created in your own mind and in response to what you see on the internet. And they're not bad. It's just that they can misguide you if you don't keep them under control. And that is basically making up your mind before you get here where you're going to live and what you're going to do. Now, by what you're going to do, I mean those who are thinking of setting up a business. It's very important for them. As far as finding a place where you want to live, if you come down quite determined, quite convinced that a specific area is the right one for you, that's fine. That's what it's helpful to do that. I think it's a good idea. My only comment is keep your mind open. Some people get so totally attached to it that they don't even look. They'll go right past a dozen other possibilities on the way to see the one that interests them the most, and not even stop for a short time just to take a look. Look around. Keep your mind open. Talk to other people about other possibilities too. It's not that you've chosen the wrong place. You've just chosen on the basis of the limited knowledge and information you can find on the internet, which is a mixture of good information, bad information, up-to-date information, and totally out-of-date information, and everything else you can think of. And that's not bad, but it's bad if it leads you to think you really know the place you're going to be living in before you've even stepped foot in the country. You don't, but you will. And that's why you come down here. This is the first visit. It's very, very important to you. It may be the last visit. I mean, either because you don't want to come down or because, yes, you made the right decision. It's here it is. That's wonderful. Just keep that very open-minded about it. That's not as critical, I think, as the second one, which is folks who want to come down and set up a business. I strongly recommend against even thinking of doing that without very good reason. In other words, you have people down here waiting for you to come down to do this, and you really are set up to a great extent before you even arrived. That's very uncommon. So the difficulty in this instance is that not knowing the country and how things operate and work down here, you can make mistakes. And there have been a lot of them that have been made. It's not that these are terrible things, because usually people find out before they commit too much time and money. Sometimes they don't, and they'll set something up that doesn't work. But it's critical, as it would be no matter where you are moving, to be there for a while, to talk to people, to see what's available, and you don't do that in a week. I mean, I strongly recommend that if you come down with a business idea that you spend some time here. I can't tell you how long it's going to take you. 1 month, 1 year, I have no idea. But you need to get out there and talk to people and find out what's already present. This country's gone through such a dramatic increase in its economy that there are a number of things here that even 5 years ago you couldn't find. And you may be late to the game. But you may have something else that you can offer that is needed because you're open enough to look for it. So when you come in and you have an idea already in your mind what you want to do, and you're going to talk to a lawyer about getting a visa, talk to him or her about that business idea as well, and get the information you need to be sure that as a foreigner you can do that. In most cases that's not a problem. But don't sign any documents or make any commitments until you've had a chance to spend some time here and look into things carefully. I think that's really saved a lot of trouble. There will be groups down here or websites that will try to get you interested in starting a particular business here. Again, be very skeptical. There's a lot of entrepreneurism is a very strong trait here in Panama. So it's not, no, let's just say it's best to come down and actually see what's going on and happening before you make up your minds. Now that's one kind. These are mistakes that are easily corrected because they're in your own, within your power to change them. They have been created, so to speak, in your own head, which is fine. But you can change it easily. Now the others, don't put too much faith in any website, including my YouTube channel, the website, anything else, to necessarily tell you accurate information. I like to think I do. I go to a lot of effort to try to do so. But there are a lot who do not. And we have a group. We have two groups. I call one of them the Paradise Pixies. These are people who, everything in Panama is wonderful, and it's like paradise on earth. They have something to sell more often than not, and then others who really genuinely believe it and they love this place. And that's good. I like that. Then we have the other group called the Boo Birds. That's what I call them, because they find fault with everything this country does. Some of them have been here for years finding fault. It's like they're really good at it. They're professionals. You get to know who they are, and you just sort of ignore them after a while because they're just so dark about everything, and it doesn't come across very nicely in the way in which they do it either, because they're not very nice people sometimes. But what I dislike intensely are some websites, some people who purposefully start spreading rumors that could be checked out pretty easily if somebody made the effort. I know the websites, some of them that are focused on Panama or the region in general, they have to find something really interesting to catch your attention, or you're not going to come back to that website. And you need to feel like you're really getting something special, some really inside information is what a lot of people want to think that they've got. And so they'll pass these things along. I've seen some stuff that's just mind-blowing. And they're very good. Some of them are very good at words. They don't actually say something is terrible is happening. They suggest that it might be happening. And in fact, it is not happening. It's pretty mind-numbing. Now, I'm going to give you two examples of this, though, because there are simple things that pop up, but it causes a great deal of consternation. I know, because I get the emails that result from these things. The first one is, 6, 7 years ago, whatever. In the country here, we have the National Bank of Panama. That is the bank, the government bank, where it provided banking services to people all over the country in days when private banks weren't out there. A very necessary purpose. Today, its primary purpose is to serve as the government's bank. You want to pay a fee, you need to pay a fine, you need to whatever. You go there to their own bank, and you can do that. You can also have a checking account and a savings account and all this sort. It's a full-service bank. But it's particularly used by so many people here for the payment of government fees and taxes and so on. Now, the bank, 7, 8 years ago, decided it was going to update its platform, its electronic platform, because it's all, of course, computerized. So I'd say it was about 30 days in advance, and indeed I'm sure it was at least that they started to publicize the fact that for about a 2.5-day period, at different times during that 2.5 days, different sections of the bank and different types of activity would be closed down because that was being transferred onto the new platform. There was a detailed itinerary, basically, of this is at this day we're doing this, and this day we're doing that, whatever. They had it all, the newspapers, it was in the television news, it was repeated on the radios, of course. And in the banks, it was noticed in my bank, which is it's just not a government bank, it's a private bank. A standard consumer bank. They had little signs up saying that the National Bank was going to be doing this on these days, and not to worry, it would have absolutely no effect on our banking, and which was true. Now, all of this is in Spanish, and yet you'll find some people down here who've been here for years, and they can't even read simple Spanish, but they won't take the time, and they don't even ask people what's happening when something comes out. Because what happened is this. On those days, as was anticipated, the National Bank closed its doors at the main branch down here. For that day, I think it was the entire day, whatever, I happened to be down there. And I was nearby, and I saw all this commotion going on. I saw people standing around talking to the guard outside the National Bank. And I went over and inquired and was told that they thought the bank was open and it wasn't open. So even Panamanians missed this. You know how people are. They just don't read what right there in front of them, and they aren't really listening, and it's mentioned on the news and so on. Or they forgot. And they were saying, okay, and going on their way. It was a small small detail, a little frustrated, I'm sure, that they had wasted their time coming into to the bank when it was closed. Anyhow, it passed perfectly. Meanwhile, I go home, I get emails coming in. Now, some website somewhere or some discussion group or some or whatever from down here, apparently, had come out the word that the National Bank was in collapse, that it had closed its doors, it had run out of money, the entire country was in terrible trouble, the canal might have to close down. And all this comes into my inbox here, and oh, God. So I sat down and I wrote an explanation of what had happened and that there was no problem at all, that it was everybody knew, and had somebody taken the time to actually inquire at their bank or at the National Bank, the guard outdoors, he could have told them. Just ask and you'll find out. And of course, nobody had. But they were free in sending this news out to the four corners, so you get something like that. I mean, the people who wrote me did the right thing. They asked, is this true? And I said, no, it isn't. Okay. For them, not such a big problem. Although one guy said, it still sounds very suspicious. Well, it's not. Don't worry. The bank will be open in 2 days. And it was. But that really frustrates me and frightens. Don't let stuff like that upset you. If you're really upset about something, I mean, this is the National Bank of Panama closing its doors. That's huge news, all right? So you can bet that if it's the case and you write me, I'll tell you, yes, the world is coming to an end or whatever, if it were true. But I'd probably be announcing it on YouTube. But it's not even remotely true. It's not going to be true, all right? So you're free and easy asking about that. Now, the second one that comes along really just came along today. I'm going to take 1 minute here to stop and pick up a little piece of information on that. Okay, I'm back. I just wanted to verify one thing. The second thing came just today and took me a bit by surprise. It was done in a chat room forum type of setting where one gentleman was asking about a good bank for him to work at. I won't bother you with the details, it's not important. And one gentleman wrote back and said, because one bank that had been recommended was Scotiabank. That's the Canadian friends will know that. It's the Bank of Nova Scotia. It trades under the name Scotiabank. It's found commonly throughout Mexico, well, not Mexico so much, to my knowledge, but Central America, Panama, the Caribbean, these areas. And a very successful bank, and it's a very solid bank. It's been my bank for 15 years here in Panama. In any event, this gentleman was saying to stay away from Scotiabank because it had entered voluntary liquidation. Okay. And he had gave the address of a statement to that effect. It came from the Banking Superintendency here in Panama, which is the government agency that oversees the banking system. And indeed, Scotiabank, as of May of last year, no less, was in voluntary liquidation, or so it states in the statement. I can see where he could get misled in that. And if he looked at the others, he would have found that it also voluntarily liquidated in 2015. Slightly different name, is the Bank of Nova Scotia. But the point is simply this. The bank is fine. I mean, we may say that it's liquidated, it's up for voluntary liquidation. If you'd gone through enough of the Banking Superintendency documentation and other banking websites and so forth, you could find out the story. But the easy thing to do for someone like that is that here we are over a year after this bank is supposedly liquidating, and it's still operating. There's branches all over the place, full of people with their money and everything else. And something obviously is amiss. Something's wrong here. What is it? I do wish that someone, before they write on a internet page, something of this effect that could be seen by all sorts of totally innocent people, that you walk in the office and ask the branch manager. That's a big deal. They'll answer. Say, over a year ago, you said you were liquidating voluntarily, and but you're still here. What's the story? Well, what it boiled down to is that Scotiabank had more than one corporate entity here in Panama, and they were combining two of them. And so basically, it was liquidating one of them, all right, and combining it in with the other and so forth. It is not, it was a sort of a reorganization, really, of their corporate structure. That's all. They didn't liquidate the bank in the sense of closing down and leaving the country or anything of the sort. So, but when you hear something like that, people who read that up there think, oh, wow, you know, especially if they're Canadians, they'll say, what, the Scotiabank? That's a very important bank. I mean, it's a very popular bank, and it's liquidating? It's not liquidating. It's fine. So these are the sorts of things that if you hear them, they sound really, really, really negative, and they seem to be something fairly important that should be news down here in Panama. Write me, and it may be about a bank I've never heard of. I don't know. I even find anything out about it, but I doubt that. It's probably going to be something that's pretty obvious, and I can respond to you on it. But don't come down believing something that's really pretty upsetting news without having it confirmed. As simple as that. So those are the things to keep in mind, is that people do a lot of work, and I know you do, in research and trying to understand where you're going. And looking at multiple countries makes it all the more complicated. And I admire you for your perseverance. I've been doing this business of living and working overseas all my life, so for me it's second nature. For you, you've had to learn the hard way, so to speak, where to go, how to find this information, and so on, and not be absolutely sure you're getting the full story and so forth. I mean, I admire you for putting up with it. Just saying that collect all that information, make a list, if you like, of the things that concern you, the things you need to ask when you get down, and bring it with you when you come down. I mean, if you're not have a bank down there, you don't have to worry about Scotiabank until you get down here, unless you're a Canadian and really want to know if one of your local banks is dissolving. Otherwise, just don't worry. Things will be clear when you get down here. If it's the National Bank of Panama, the government's primary bank collapsing, and all the sorts of terrible things that were supposed to happen as a result, according to the rumors started, that's justification to sitting down right now and writing and saying, Bob, is it true? And I will deal with it like I dealt with the last one. So that's it. It doesn't sound like a great deal, but it is a great deal. It's you looking at your own stuff. Look at the research, the stuff you put in your head, and the things that you feel that you know about Panama now. And just be clear on those. And then when you get here, that's the important thing, because I can talk to them blue in the face. It's when you get here, within a very short period of time, so many of questions will be answered, and you have a whole new perspective on things. And that will be the beginning of your adventure. Anyhow, thank you very much for stopping by, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. There's a bonus if you actually hung on to the last second, which I doubt very many of you have. But I'm just going to show you here a photo. It's taken just a few hours ago, not very far from where I'm sitting right now. This is Laurentino Cortizo, the newly inaugurated President of the Republic of Panama. He will be our leader for the next 5 years, and I wish him the very best. So this, as I say, is a very current, it's about as current an event as you can possibly have. Apparently it went very well, the entire ceremony. So welcome, Nito, that's his nickname. We look forward to the next 5 years. And those of you who come down to live here will get to know him well, I'm sure, as well as the rest of us. Thank you.